Hello. This is Daniel from Fertilize. Today I'm going to talk about the Anthurium crystallinum. I have to say in the beginning I wasn't a big Anthurium fan. I had the king and queen Anthurium, so Anthurium varrocanum and also Anthurium veitchi, and I found them rather difficult to care for. Big problem with these plants was always the watering. If you skipped watering once or forgot to water in time, the result was that you got really crispy leaves, and also that plants are starting to wilt like rather quickly. I didn't imagine it's going to be like that after caring for philodendron plants and other aroids, but anthuriums are really particular in that matter. But anyways, I wanted to talk about the care of Anthurium crystallinum, and I also wanted to let you know why I now love Anthurium plants. The coolest thing about Anthurium plants is that they flower quite readily after like 2 or 3 years. Once these plants are mature, they flower multiple times a year, and you can easily pollinate them and also cross-pollinate them. So you can make new cultivars that haven't been in existence before by just cross-pollinating one species with the other species. How cool is that? But I wanted to talk about Anthurium crystallinum care today. This is my small Anthurium crystallinum plant I have with me today. I have a couple of others, but this is one of the smaller plants. You see some, hard for you to see, but you see some roots coming out. I'm currently growing it in semi-hydro habitat, but more about that later on. So let's get started with the first Anthurium crystallinum plant care topic, which is soil. So in terms of soil, like most aroid plants, Anthurium crystallinum needs well-draining soil. So charcoal, perlite, pumice, all these kind of substrates that are chunky where air can get to the roots is great. So also orchid bark is something commonly used, and peat moss as well. So I have a mix of all of this. This one I'm keeping currently in leca balls because I just found out that Anthurium's too great in semi-hydro. Because I've mentioned the watering needs, and you should never skip watering on these. That's why semi-hydro is perfect. They always have a water source and access to water. This way you don't get crinkly leaves or drooping leaves immediately if you have these plants in semi-hydro. So I can vouch for that definitely. All right, this is it about soil. Just avoid like very dense soils. This is not going well because of the roots. They need some airflow to them for these plants to be happy, and also they can develop root rot rather quickly. Let's move on to light. As always, lighting, best light for these plants is bright indirect light. So that means you don't put it in a southern window just right to the window. You make sure that sun rays are not falling directly on the leaves, but indirectly. It can be bright, it can be fairly bright. They just love it. If it's too bright, the leaves can look like really whitish. I'm going to show you this one here. This is just a way for the plant to distribute its chlorophyll. So if it's very bright, it doesn't need that much chlorophyll anymore. So leaves are going to get whiter. They would also get crispy if you do it for an extended time. So make sure they get bright light, but bright indirect light, and Anthurium crystallinum is going to grow well like that. Watering. Yeah, let's talk about watering. I've mentioned watering before. You need to water these quite frequently, at least once a week, every 7 days. You can revert on watering in winter time, in autumn and winter time, where there is like less sun and they're not in growing phase, maybe every 10 days. And in summer, it can even be every 3 to 5 days. The best thing you can do is to check your soil, put one index finger into the soil. If it's slightly moist, that's perfect. You can water again. If it's very moist, do not water at all. Otherwise, you might be getting root rot. And if it's really dry, make sure to water it and give it a good soak. In terms of water, you can use any kinds of water. If I use tap water, I always let it sit for at least 24 to 48 hours, because this way all the bad chemicals and things, or at least most of them, are going to dissipate, and therefore you have better water for your plants. Then in terms of temperature, and yeah, I have to say it's really warm here, sorry about that. In terms of temperature, what they prefer, what an Anthurium crystallinum prefers, is 65 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. That's about 18 to 24 degrees Celsius. Temperature shouldn't go below 50 degrees Fahrenheit. That's quite common for most tropical plants. They won't take it really well. Also, I have to say about Anthuriums, some of them can take colder temperatures if they are growing in higher altitudes, but 65 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit is a really good temperature for the Anthurium crystallinum. Just maybe one thing to mention, like if temperatures are getting really hot, and it happened to me once in the grow tent where I put the heating switch to the wrong side. It got really warm. Plants were wilting within like 10-15 minutes because it went into the high 70, 80 degrees Fahrenheit. It was way too hot in that tent. So just make sure it doesn't get too warm. Otherwise, allow for ventilation. This is always good. It will make the plants stronger. You just need to make sure, if you have ventilation, that they're not drying out, because this way, like soil and also the plants themselves get dry quite quickly. Humidity. Humidity is also quite standard with Anthurium crystallinum. Humidity around 70 to 80% is perfect. That's an increased humidity. You won't have it in most homes. They will also tolerate lower humidity levels of 40 to 50%, but you might have a crinkly, crispy leaf, or at least leaf edges and leaf tips here and there. But that isn't a very big issue. Anthurium plants and also the crystallinum, they really love high humidity. So optimal humidity is 70 to 80% or even more. You can get these humidity levels if you're using an enclosed container, or also if you're putting plants really close together, or of course, as I'm doing with some of my plants, a plant humidifier works quite well. Propagation. Propagation is a fun topic, as I've mentioned. You can pollinate these plants, so you will get seeds that you can sow, and then you will reap the benefits in terms of new plantlets. The thing is with that is it can take quite a while. It can take a year or even more until the berries are ripe, and then you start off with the berries, and really small plantlets are gonna grow out of it. So until you have a plant this size, it takes years almost. So the easiest way is by division. So Anthurium crystallinum is forming clumps and like little additional plantlets that you can separate after a while. You just need to make sure that there's a couple of roots when you separate it. That's really the easiest way to propagate an Anthurium crystallinum. Yeah, that's it about propagation. Let's talk about growth. Anthurium crystallinum is quite a vigorous grower, I have to say. Like there's like new leaves shooting up all the time. Sometimes it's like 2 or 3 leaves at the same time. They grow really well after they gained a couple of leaves, and they get quite bushy, and new plantlets are gonna come out. So it's a fun plant and a good grower. And also I've seen like really huge Anthurium crystallinum leaves. It hasn't happened for me, unfortunately, yet, but these leaves can reach a decent size. They can get like bigger than my palms, and I just love the looks, the white veining. There's also different variants with more veining and with more silver and less silver, but the leaves are looking cool, like armor or a shield, I would say. And they are heart-shaped and really sharp at the end, so really beautiful leaf blades. Potting. Well, as I said, they're growing quite vigorous. The Anthurium crystallinum may need repotting after half a year or a year. What I saw with my plants is that the roots are getting really dense. They're like pushing against the pot. Yes, once the roots start to push against the pot and you can just feel it, this might be the time where you can think about repotting Anthurium crystallinum. In general, they like to be a little bit root bound. You don't have to repot them too much, and also they don't need a huge root system. As long as they have sufficient water and nutrients, they're all fine. So I don't repot my Anthurium crystallinums too much, like every year or two, probably every 2 years almost. I'm repotting my plants, and that is perfectly fine. This leads me to the topic of fertilizers. So Anthurium plants are aroids. These are plants that are growing on other plants and trees, and trees are also plants, on other plants and also stones and surfaces. So usually they are not in soil, and therefore also they don't need too many nutrients. This you need to keep in mind when you're fertilizing your Anthurium crystallinum. I fertilize them every second week, and just like with 1/3 or 1/4 of the recommended dosage of just like regular fertilizer. You can use balanced fertilizer, that's perfectly fine, it's gonna work well. And also, like, I reduce fertilization in autumn and winter time because growth is slowing down. Plants need less nutrients, so you can maybe fertilize every 3 to 4 weeks. And also, even if you fertilize less, nothing is going to happen, or let's say less is going to happen, like probably less leaf growth, smaller leaves. Therefore, I really like fertilizing my plants because I want to max out the growth potential. Then another pesky topic is pests. Really, like, the worst in terms of pests are almost monstera plants. They seem to attract all kinds of pests like scale, mealybugs, and of course thrips. The question is, how is it with Anthurium plants and also Anthurium crystallinum? I can tell you it's better. I don't have so many pest problems on my Anthurium plants, and also on my Anthurium crystallinum. I've got a few mealybugs here and there. If you spot them early, you can easily just squeeze them and take them off the plants. It's not a very big issue. Usually I'm using cotton swabs with diluted alcohol. I also use spray with diluted alcohol, so rubbing alcohol, and also dishwater soap. What you have to be careful of is that most Anthurium leaves are quite delicate. So if you spray anything on it, I would suggest to just right afterwards spray again with just water, so whatever you put on is going off. And just start and test a really small area, because these kind of plants, these kind of leaves are burning easily, and it doesn't look nice if you have all these holes and brown patches on your Anthurium crystallinum. So yeah, I said, like, mealybugs, I've had mealybugs. I've never had any thrips on an Anthurium plant, and also I didn't have scales so far. It doesn't mean they can't attack these plants. Probably they're just not the biggest pest magnets in the plant world, which is a big plus. Yeah, so we covered so many topics. If you like this video, this particular video, or generally the plant care videos we are doing, please subscribe to our channel, give us a thumb up, and have a look at the other houseplant care videos and also gardening videos. We really appreciate you. We appreciate you watching. Thank you so much, and see you next time. Bye.